Welcome to Season 9 of TQA Weekly. This week I'm going to be introducing you to the Raspberry Pi, but first, my name is Steve Smith, this is TQA Weekly, and the Raspberry Pi is something that some of you have actually asked me to do. It also brings me back to the roots of this channel, which means that we get more Linux stuff out of this. But before we get into any operating system stuff, how about I introduce you to the hardware? So a Raspberry Pi is essentially a computer smaller than my hand. My hand's not that big, by the way. So it's a SoC, system on a chip. Everything you need is on here. Obviously, there is expansion that's possible. It is a computer with a quad-core Broadcom processor clocked at 1.2 gigahertz, which is overclockable. I wouldn't do it without active cooling. Basically, I have passive cooling on here, and the processor is right under this. We have 1 gig of RAM right under here. We have a micro SD slot underneath that uses micro SD chips. You have no choice. That's where the operating system installs, at least by default, and you basically need it in order to boot it. It uses these little chips, which are really freaking fragile. I broke the one that came with this, so be careful if you get one, because the links are going to be down below, and if you want to play with these small computers, they're not as fragile as you would think, just the chips are. So you install that underneath, and that's it. You have Ethernet, so this big connector that we all know, 802.11n, Bluetooth 4.1, HDMI, which I'm pretty sure doesn't pass any audio whatsoever, but it's got a headphone jack, so you can actually pass audio in that way. 4 USB 2.0 jacks here, and of course, there are connectors for display, so this connector on the edge, so you can plug a display to see stuff on here. And of course, you got a connector for the camera, what they call it, the Pi camera, which I did buy, so we will talk about that in the future. And of course, you got a 40-pin GPIO header too, which allows you to do many Internet of Things stuff and experiment and control stuff using languages like Python. But before we get into anything else, let's put it down and let's talk about this. It does have options for a few operating systems. The one we'll be focusing on, which is the default one, is known as Raspbian. Most of the instructions you will find online refer to the operating system as basically a derivative of Debian. It is basically Debian miniaturized. So if you're familiar with Linux, especially Debian, you will find yourself at home here. And if you're any good at Python, you will find that it is not that hard to program. And Python itself, I've been learning, it's not a language that's all that hard to learn. You can use a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, however, and this is a problem, only after setup process has begun, which means you first need to get a wired keyboard and mouse. I went halfway through there, got a Logitech keyboard and mouse with a wireless dongle that doesn't require any software to be installed. So I have the benefit of a wireless keyboard and mouse without it being Bluetooth. But one of the reasons why you would use Bluetooth is basically to allow yourself to have all 4 of these USB 2.0 ports open for experimentation. You can also install other operating systems at the same time on it. You will have the option of connecting remotely. That is next week's episode. We will be using a program like VNC. The thing is that because I'll be connecting by Wi-Fi, it will appear slower than this device actually is. And you can, of course, control your Raspberry Pi remotely as a result, meaning that if you have at least the plug for it to plug into the wall in it, you are going to be definitely good. Although there are people that have managed to make these completely wireless with their own battery pack. So there is that option as well. And for those who are wondering, what can you do with it? Well, first of all, it is a computer. So you can do anything you want as long as it's within the specifications of said computer. So basically you can go on the internet, watch videos, listen to music, and do all kinds of other stuff. But on top of that, because of all the display headers and GPIO, and of course the camera header, and because of all of the stuff that you can do as a result of all that, you can actually create your own Internet of Things device for your very home. So what can you expect from this? Well, we're going to be dabbling in Linux. We're going to be dabbling with Raspberry Pi. You'll learn a little bit about Python and, of course, how to make your own little gadgets and experiments with this. as well as many of the other kinds of episodes that I'm used to talking about on TQA Weekly. So, like this episode if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, share with those that you think can benefit from this, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions for topics, especially related to Raspbian and the Raspberry Pi, email me at ask@tqaweekly.com or go to my website, tqaweekly.com, for everything else. And if you want to make this show better, go to patreon.com/tqaweekly and become a patron today. Patrons get these episodes 24 to 48 hours in advance of everyone else. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.